Hello, everyone. Good afternoon from the National Unity Office. It's really great to join you today, and it looks like we still have people signing on. So Greg Mendoza is here to help us with admitting people in. But in the meantime, for those of you that are already here, if you could do me a favor and in the chat, write your name, your tribal affiliation, and if you're part of a youth council, please include that. I'm very curious as to who's joining us today. So we're going to use the chat box quite a bit today. So if you would help me out, that would be great. It looks like we have about 13 people on, including Greg and I. And I see that Jennifer signed in. So thank you, Jennifer Freeman. Can you tell us where you're from and your tribal affiliation? Or if you're with a youth council? Or if you're an advisor, that would be great too. Hi, Lori from the Chippewa Cree. Lavina, hi Lavina from Peach Springs with the Wallapai Youth Council. Great, Roseanne. Richardson. And is it Karu? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. Youth Council, and you're an advisor. Sunny Wakayuda, Wallapai Hopi, Wallapai Youth Council. Thank you for joining us. And Jennifer, again, thank you, Jennifer, from California. And you live in Alaska. You work with Native youth. Ah, awesome. Okay. Mahia Ramirez from the Muskogee Creek Nation. And I apologize if I'm not saying this correctly, but I do want to acknowledge you. And a parent from Minnesota. I see the name above there, so, but I won't say it if you don't want me to, but it's in the chat. So thank you for joining us today. Maria Messerina from Minnesota with the Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe. Welcome. Amanda Onwaituma, Yavapai Apache Nation Youth Council, and you're the coordinator. Welcome, Amanda. So I just shared on my Facebook page that we're starting, and hopefully we'll have a few more joining. And I let me see if I can share, just remind people that this is happening on the Unity Facebook page. And I do want to honor your time, so we won't be too much longer here before we start. So if you'll just bear with me for another minute or a few more seconds, I'd really appreciate that. Okay, so I just posted on Unity's Facebook page that we're starting, and if anyone wants to join, then they can jump on. But we'll go ahead and get started, and thank you to those that signed the chat. And if you haven't already and you just joined, if you could go to the chat box and write your name and your tribal affiliation. If you're with the youth council, please include that. And also, if you're an advisor, that would be nice to know, a youth or advisor. That'll be great. I mean, I imagine that it'll be a lot of advisors on here. So this is also being recorded. And so if you want to, go back to it or refer to it, it will be on our YouTube page, right, Greg?
Yes.
Okay. Well, once again, welcome. My name is Mary Kim Titla. I'm the Executive Director for Unity. I'm from the San Carlos Apache tribe. And in the Apache language, we say Dagote, which means how are you? And it's good to see you. So we're going to go ahead and get right into our presentation. And as always, what I like to do is to share in a good way. And so I'm going to ask for a volunteer, and you could say a prayer, or you could just say some encouraging words, a positive thought, but we want to start in a good way. And this is just the Unity way. So any volunteers? And Greg, they just have to unmute themselves, right? And they'll be able to share?
That's correct.
Okay, wonderful. Any volunteers? We're going to be a little interactive today. So whether it's by chat or I may call on you for one reason or another, but if we have no volunteers, then I'm going to be forced to call upon somebody. Just kidding. I know Greg's busy at meeting people, but Greg, do you want to just share something positive?
Yes. Again, thank you. I recognize some of the names on the call. I was an advisor for many years, and it's so rewarding. And we at Unity really look to you for that guidance and direction for the young people, particularly those that will be coming to the National Unity Conference. And so I know what it feels like to be an advisor or a chaperone. So you are much appreciated. Unity appreciates your work, and we look forward to seeing you bring all these wonderful faces and smiles to our national conference. So again, advisors, I'm an advisor. I've been an advisor for many years, and so like I said, it's a rewarding experience. So again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Greg, for those good words. And this picture is of all the spring flowers here in Arizona that have been popping up since we had that wonderful rain. We've just had an abundance of rain this year. So just wanted to share some spring flowers. Those always brighten everyone's day, I think. Okay, so here's what we'll cover today. And there's only 4 bullet points. So it's not like we're going to be, covering a whole lot, because I want to make this very simple and easy to understand and make time for sharing. We really want to hear from you. So the topics I will cover is how I started, why fundraise. You've got to have an answer for that, right? How to fundraise. And that is going to be inclusive of having a plan and developing a budget. Okay. And what to do after you fundraise. All right, how I started. Now, these pictures are going way, way back when I first got involved with Unity. The picture at the very bottom is when I first came to Oklahoma to meet Mr. J.R. Cook, who is also in the picture on the far right. And he is or was the founder of Unity. And, J.R. is it's Cherokee, and he really inspired me to become a better person, to reach my full potential. And I just fell in love with Unity right away. So of course, like many Native youth out there, I didn't have the means to travel, and I relied on my parents, who are pictured there with me as well. And well, I have to give credit to my parents, because they saw the excitement in my voice and just decided that they wanted to support me. So of course they funded my first trip to Oklahoma. But thereafter, it was up to me to fundraise. And I did that in a variety of ways, because I wanted to take others with me. And so in the other pictures with the other youth there, these are youth from my cohort. These are young people who have now, of course, they've all grown up and they went on to do amazing things. So I have some really good memories, and just being empowered also made me want to empower others. And so it was always an annual thing to fundraise to go to the Unity Conference. Okay, so now the big question: why do you want to fundraise to go to Unity? And again, I'm going to rely on the chat box. And so if you could answer that question for me, I'd really appreciate it. And if you're fundraising for a youth group, tell me why you are fundraising or helping your youth group to fundraise. If it is for yourself personally, if you would please share why you want to raise money to go to Unity. So again, if you could just type that in the chat box, I'd really appreciate it. And Greg, as you start to see those answers, if you would help me share those. I think this question is super important because this is what donors will want to know. So this is good to have for your elevator speech. And I've had to do this many times, trust me, not only as when I was a younger person raising money to go to Unity, but also because I currently fundraise for Unity, and I've had to share an elevator speech, actually including on the elevator. So that means, how quick some elevators can be, that you have a minute or less to do your elevator speech. So we're getting any responses there, Greg?
Yes, we have from Kari from Ketchikan, Alaska. She is our 25 and under 25 honoree. She says she wants to become a positive role model in my community and inspire many Native youth to make changes.
Very good. I like that. Thank you, Kari.
We have another one that says, I'm here fundraising for a small group of a native team from the Fernando, excuse my language, it's a band of Mission Indians. I wonder if this is from California, Maria, but they are learning how to network with other Native youth.
Wonderful. So we have two groups right there that are going to have to travel all the way across the country. And that means, fundraising for maybe those flights that can be a little bit more expensive than maybe other parts of the country.
And that was from Los Angeles County, California.
Okay.
Thank you, Maria. We also have another one from Lovina from Wallapai. Unity has made a positive impact on my life. I like to share this amazing experience with the youth in my community and get them to connect with others.
Thank you. I really enjoy hearing these stories, and it really is an affirmation for those of us that work for Unity to hear you talk about how Unity has impacted your life and your future plans. So thank you so much. Let's share one more, Greg.
This is from Lori Taylor. So our kids can experience all the opportunity Unity offers and get our youth involved in community world connections.
That sounds really good. Thank you, Lori, for sharing that. And definitely there's lots of different experiences that the youth will be able to take back to their communities. And I always say there's something for everybody, no matter what, whether your interest is politics or sports or, just community work, Unity is the place to be. So I'm going to go back and I want to read more. I know there's some really good ones coming up. Thank you for sharing, but we're going to keep moving. And so thank you for that. Oops. I don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm trying to get rid of the chat. Oh, there we go. Okay, we're going to go on. And I think I skipped a slide, but we're going to stay here. So how many of you, and you can just say me or no, yes or no, how many can recite Unity's mission statement by memory? Or did you even know the mission statement before you saw this slide? And the reason I'm asking this is because it's important to know what to say to people when they say, what is unity, right? So the challenge here is making sure you know what unity stands for. And what's the responses looking like, Greg? How many knew it by heart or know it by heart?
None, but Kari says I can't and I should know now. Lori said,
Right.
not yet.
Well, there it is. And it is on our website. And it's even sometimes a challenge for me. And I've been involved with Unity since I was a young person. So I think the main thing for me to remember is that Unity fosters the spirit of Native youth in 4 areas. This is just a, for me to remember the 4 core areas. So Unity's mission is to foster the spiritual, mental, physical, and social development of American Indian and Alaska Native youth. And recently, Native Hawaiian youth has been added, and to help build a strong, unified, and self-reliant Native America through greater youth involvement. It is a little bit long, and we've even talked about, switching it up so that it's a little bit more easy to remember. But in the nutshell, again, we focus on, and if you look at the logo, the 4 core areas are there: spiritual, mental, physical, and social. So thank you for answering that question for me. Okay, so now we're going to go into this topic of how to fundraise. And again, I'm going to ask you to go to the chat. I would like to know how you have fundraised thus far, or if you haven't, what would you think would be the ideal way to fundraise? So again, if you go to the chat, and if you've done fry bread sales, if you could type that in, or if you did car washes, you could type that in, or letter writing, whatever you've done thus far to fundraise, please type it in the chat. Have you outright asked people verbally for money? I think that would be important to include as well. So no matter what you've done, if you would include it. Maybe you've hosted a powwow. I did that when I was a young person trying to raise money for a group of us to go. And we did raise, money, but it was hard work. I will tell you that. I also did a basketball tournament, and it was amazing. And we raised money, but again, it was hard work. So Greg, what are you seeing?
Well, I see a lot of food sales. I see a lot of bake sales, taco sales, t-shirt sales,
Oh,
bingo, raffles, pop-up, thrift store. I see a kitty carnival.
oh,
I see 50 and 50 asking for donations. Um, some are completing a grant request but have sold food.
good. There's a variety there. That's good to hear. So I hope that some of you are taking notes from some of these others. Okay, so one more added question. What is the most money you've ever raised? So if you could type that in the chat, I would really appreciate it. And so I will tell you, just from me personally, when I was starting out, and this is as a teenager raising money, I raised about $500. And again, it was through like a powwow and a basketball tournament. And then I also became an advisor for a youth council. And I think the most money we raised was like $1,500 doing a food sale at a rodeo. So that was fun. And we did it for 2 days, but it was a lot of work. Of course, we had to buy a lot of supplies, and we had to make sure we had volunteers. So what are you seeing in the chat? Greg, in terms of how much they've raised? The most.
Kari's raised 2,300, Maria 300, Lavina about 1,100 from the thrift shop, an event for 2 days. I see personally, Roseanne has raised 500 to buy reusable masks for from their bus kits catered to local departments. One was 900, the other one was $1,500.
Wow.
A little over 1,000 from a Frybridge sale.
Oh my goodness. That's awesome. 5,000 from a fry bread sale. Wow. Must have been some really good fry bread. So, well, good job, everyone. I'm happy to hear that. And you are definitely in the business of fundraising. So we're going to move on and keep sharing, though. I appreciate that. I really like hearing from you. Okay. There's a typo in there. What have you done to fundraise for yourself or your youth group? Okay, we answered that question, so I jumped ahead a little bit. But for those of you that joined us, we're going over some just, finding out what people have done to fundraise, and it was all over the place. Okay, so this is a very important question. And when I was first fundraising, I didn't have a plan, but a plan is very important. Okay, so we see a map here, and there's lots of communities on there from all parts of the country. And where are we all going this summer? We're all heading to Washington, D.C., right? But how are we going to get there? It's always important to have a plan. And I know that sometimes, like I said, when I first started out, I did not have a plan. I just came up with an idea and I just it was all up here, right? So I know we got to get some people together. We've got to, have a date. We've got to, buy ingredients and have volunteers. And anyway, so my poor parents, they were pretty much involved in all of that. They were a part of my plan. So I guess you could say I kind of had a loose plan, but it wasn't written down. So that would be important to have something written down. And I would encourage that. And, I will show you something that I found on the internet. And it might not seem ideal, but I did think that there were some important elements to it. So I think that's on the next slide. Yes. So the chart there on the left is checklist for fundraising. And of course, this is, way in advance. And I know a lot of us were like, okay, we've got 2 months, or actually a little less than 2 months, right? But a lot of these things I think you can utilize. So I pulled it, and I think I'm just going to go down the list really quick before you start. Set financial goals, right? I know that when I fundraise for Unity, we always have a goal in mind, and we base it, of course, a lot of times on what we raised previously. And just to be, transparent, last year we had a goal to raise $250,000 to help pay for the conference. So and we met the goal, by the way. So setting a goal is very good. Set secondary goals. It's okay if you don't reach what you want to reach, right? What's your secondary goal? The budget, we talked about the budget, and we're going to go into that a little bit more. Having a budget's really important. Define your audience. So when you have a fry bread sale, right, you know who your audience is going to be, right? So it might be, like I said, for me, with my youth council, it was at a rodeo, and it was in the local community. And some of these, of course, it's, just common sense, choosing a date, choosing a location. And this plan here says 6 months prior. So I know that a lot of people, we just don't plan that far in advance, but it's whatever date you have in mind, even if it's 6 weeks away, or even if it's 6 days away, I think it's good to have some sort of a plan. So these are, like a lot of it's common sense stuff, where you have to reserve the space, you have to create, fundraising pages, whether it's on social media. Then you have to, outreach to the community, collect donations. And then here, 2 days prior, of course, again, if you're having a food sale, you're going to be going shopping. The day prior, doing the prep, right? Day of. I think what I like the best on this was have fun, because I know fundraising can be stressful, but it's really good to remember just to have fun doing it. And then the next day, update your social media. Okay, hey, we reached our goal. This is what we do at Unity for Giving Tuesday or Arizona Gives Day. You know, we have a goal in mind, and thank you for helping us reach our goal. And then I found this thermometer graphic here with this young man looking at it, and the goal being $10,000. And I think that's not an unrealistic goal, especially if you're taking a group of people. So we're going to talk about that in a moment, but I'm going to go to the next slide, and we're going to look at some costs. So some of you may have already done this. If you have not, you can, you know, take a look at this, and I'm willing to share the PowerPoint with you afterwards if you want. But this is based on a budget for 10 people. And I put this together because we also apply for grants. So when I applied for a recent grant, they wanted to know how much money I needed to raise for a particular group of people. So I estimated round trip airline flights. And of course, this is just an average estimate, you know, depending on where you're coming from. If you're coming from Alaska, it's probably going to be a lot more than, you know, going from, let's say, Dallas to Washington, D.C., but just this is on average. And then lodging. This is for 5 nights times 5 rooms. And you can get this from the website. We have the hotel listed there. It's $199 a night. And if you reserve your room, it'll calculate for you each room night plus the taxes, and then you have a final total there at the end. So this is for 5 nights. And the way I estimated this is, you know, there's really 4 nights of the conference, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, right? But I include an extra night just for travel. So, you know, bringing the students in a day early. Then there's per diem. Some people use like the GSA rate, so it's a government rate. Some people may not be able to afford that rate, so they might, you know, do an average of $50 a day. I think I might have used the GSA rate here. So for 10 people, that's almost $5,000. Okay, so going down to ground transportation, you could probably save money on any of these, like for instance, except for the airline flights, on lodging, depending on, you know, if you put 2 or 3 or 4 to a room, you may save a little bit there. Ground transportation, this is just based on one person. I estimated $50 round trip. I think if you go in groups, you know, you'll probably be able to save money there. But this is, again, just an estimate. And then, of course, the registration fees. And I hope that all of you were able to get in before today, because the rate just went up. But yesterday, the rate was $400, and that's what I based it on. So times 10 is $4,000. So there you have a grand total of $19,415 just to send 10 people to the National Unity Conference. And as I said, I used this for a grant. And so, you know, I'm very familiar with how much it's going to cost to send people to the National Unity Conference. And if you're fundraising for 5 people, I guess you could cut this in half. If you're just fundraising for yourself, then you can see the numbers there and what that might mean for you, or just divide this number, right, by 10. So, all right, we'll keep moving on. Oops. Okay, so we're going to get to my favorite part of this webinar. And there's no real, I don't think, big secret to raising a lot of money. Although I think I can come close when I say this. And for me, the best way to raise money, and I've done this, and I have been a fundraiser for youth groups, but also for Unity. The best way to fundraise is to verbally ask for money. The next best way is to reach out to someone by email or by text, but you're asking direct, right? So that's where the direct ask comes from. And you'll notice, or maybe you've donated before, but a lot of candidates for political office, this is one of the key ways that they raise money. And I actually ran for Congress back in 2008, and I was told that there's 3 things you need to do to run for office: fundraise, fundraise, fundraise. So I had to focus on fundraising quite a bit. And I was able to raise a lot of money. And the way I did it was by asking directly. So I know this is a fear that some people have, but in the chat, if you could please tell me whether you've verbally or directly asked someone for money as part of your fundraising. So again, just in the chat, if you'll share whether you've ever asked someone directly, whether it's verbally or indirectly, like through text or through an email, if you've asked anyone for money. If you're a teenager, I'm sure that you have asked your parents, right? I got that a lot when my sons were teenagers, and now I have grandchildren, and they ask for money, but they get creative. You know, it's kind of interesting because my granddaughter, who's a senior, she starts talking about what she likes and fell in love with first, like Donna, I fell in love with these hair extensions, and they would look great on me for my prom. So then, you know, so she builds up, you know, she starts to build up what she's asking for before she makes the ask. But anyway, Greg, are we getting some responses there?
Yes, Maria presented a slideshow to the Parent Indian Committee at her school to donate money to her council. Roseanne said yes, verbally and electronically through social media. Shane says verbally, our youth council went in front of the board of directors to ask for funding. And Lavina said yes, she's out asking for funding. She said that her youth council presented a budget request to their tribal council during a tribal council meeting.
Good job. Those are all excellent, and thank you for sharing that. I think if you ask fundraisers when they're first starting out, somebody like me, if it's easy to ask for money, I think across the board it probably would be no. And I sure was nervous at the very beginning as well. Even now, sometimes I get nervous, but I've done it so much that it becomes, you know, kind of like second nature. And I think, you know, just talking about unity for me is an easy sell, and I don't take anything personally. In other words, if they say no, I don't take it personally. I think that's important. So I'm going to tell you a quick story about when I was an advisor and our youth council needed to raise a lot of money very quickly. And the fry bread sales wasn't doing it, right? So I think the most we were able to raise, like I said before, was about $1,500 maybe at a rodeo for food sales, but we needed to raise like $5,000, right? So I was able to get the group together and I challenged them. And the challenge was we need to outright ask people for money. That's going to be the quickest way to raise money. So I challenged them to think of people that they could ask for money. And the toughest part of this, I think, was you cannot ask your parents and you cannot ask your relatives or friends. So who has the ability, so there was another piece to this, who has the ability to donate $500 or more to the youth council? Oh, and the other challenge I gave them was, and do not include the tribal council. So then they had to really think about that, right? But they came up with some answers. And so here's the list. They came up with a county supervisor. They came up with the county sheriff. They came up with the tribal attorney and the tribal lobbyist. So I thought that was a very good list. And the next challenge was to ask them to develop a fundraising letter. And remember when I asked you earlier about why do you want to fundraise to go to Unity? Well, that piece had to be in the body of the letter. So in other words, I mean, yeah, it was going to take a little bit of work because they had to write the letters, but they also had to tell their personal story. So they did, and they put these letters together and they sent one to all 4 of those people. And in the end, I'm going to write this down because this has helped me remember a little bit. They received $500 from almost everybody except the county supervisor, who gave 1,000. So 500 times 3 is what, $1,500? And then 1,000 plus 1,000 is what, $2,500. 4 letters. And they were able to raise that with 4 letters, 4 stamps. So it took a little bit of time and effort. Of course, that's always going to be a given when you do any type of fundraising, but it's super important for I think this to happen within your circle, within your group. And I know some people may be challenged and say, we come from a really tiny community. We just don't have those type of people that can give $500. Well, I would say to that, think outside of the box. Think outside of the box, because I know that there are people out there willing to give, and trust me, they are giving money to somebody. It could be a political candidate. It could be their church. It could be a charity, their favorite charity. For the young people, I would say, nobody is off the table. In the past, I've challenged our young people to raise their own per diem money. And for this, I said, you can go to family and relatives. So I challenged each one to ask a family member who could to come up with a list of 10 family members and ask each of them for $25. And so most of them were able to do that because they were able to identify, of course, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle, great grandma, mom and dad. So they were able to come up with the 10 people, and they were able to collect $25 from each. But you have to, be ready to share why you want to go. So again, the pitch is going to be very super important. Okay, we're going to go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the 10 best practices for asking for donations in person. And I think these are some good ones. Again, we're going to do the research beforehand. I mentioned that when I was visiting with our youth group. Who should we ask for money from? Form a strong relationship before you make the ask. Well, this might not be possible, especially if you're trying to raise money quickly. But I think sometimes it's just maybe making that connection. It could be, hey, Mom, do you know the county sheriff by any chance? Or, hey, Dad, do you think your boss might be willing to donate money? So I think making a connection in one way or another is good. Meet them where they are. Okay, so what could that mean? Meet them where they are. I think some people you have to ask, do you have the ability to donate money? The county sheriff could have said, I've already spent my budget and I'm sorry, I cannot give. I think asking questions is important. Can you give $500? Can you give $250? And having a backup plan. Practice your pitch. When I was running for Congress, I had somebody sit with me at the telephone, and we started dialing numbers, and she listened to me while I made my pitch. And she said, never take no for an answer. And tell you what, I got lots of no's, but I practiced my pitch, and I also practiced what if they were to say no. So I would start by asking, can you give $200? And if they said no, then I'll ask, well, can you give $100? I went all the way down the list to, can you give $20, again, taking no for an answer. And I actually had somebody come into my office once. This is not here, but way back when. And he was a political candidate. He just said he wanted to introduce himself, get to know me, because he was running in my district. He actually was running for Congress after I did. And he pulled out an envelope, and he said, so you've learned about me and you know what I stand for. I'd like to ask if you could donate $20 to my campaign today. And so I actually gave him 20 bucks. I thought that was really bold of him, but I gave him the 20 bucks. Communicate in a variety of ways. Well, that's a good one. You know, sometimes the direct ask is you're just straightforward, right? But like I said, my granddaughter has gotten very good at this, where she communicates with me in a variety of ways now to get my attention. And I think that's the main thing, is to, you know, get the attention of that person. I've had, you know, people I've run into who are former alumni of Unity, and they're doing very well for themselves. And so I've approached them and I've asked if, you know, could we have coffee? Or do you have just a, you know, couple minutes? I'd like to talk to you about Unity. So you've got to, again, that goes along with your pitch, but being creative in how you communicate. Be genuine, direct, and specific. Okay, that's pretty common sense, right? I think that all of us know what we're doing, and I think for the most part we're genuine in that. Tell good stories. It takes, I think, a person to get someone's attention. If they're a good storyteller, that's pretty much a given. So be prepared, again, to tell your story. And this last one is super important, because there are going to be rejections, right? Be prepared for rejections. It is just going to happen. And again, don't take it personally. Okay, so there you see me there in the middle, and I'm accepting a check from somebody, and his name is David Beaver. I'm going to tell you a story about David Beaver. David works in the same building as Unity, and he owns his own business. It's called Titan Facilities, LLC. And he and I actually are from the same community. So there's that connection, right? Sometimes he wanders over, I guess when he's bored or whatever, he just comes to say hi, and, you know, likes to know what's going on with Unity, you know? And so one time I asked David, I said, hey, can your company donate to Unity? And he said, sure. How much do you need? Right? So I was just straightforward, but I immediately asked for $1,500. And he said, well, what is it for? And I said, for one of our education scholarships that we give every year. And he goes, okay, sure, I'll write you a check. Okay, so the next year, David comes back, and this is, of course, we've established that relationship. We thanked him. This photo has actually gone on our social media pages, thanking him for his donations. The next year, he gave us, he says, you know what, I'm going to double my donation. So I'm going to give you $3,000. I said, well, thank you, David. That's awfully kind of you. He goes, yeah, I want to do 2 scholarships. So this year he comes back and he asked me, and he's never asked this before. He said, how many scholarships do you give at Unity anyway? And I said, well, we give 3. And he says, okay, I'll cover all of them. I'll cover all of them this year. He goes, I see that you guys are doing good things, and I know you guys are just working hard over here all the time. And he goes, I see that. And he goes, I want to support you. So I want to thank David Beaver for, having a generous heart and upping his donation every year. And I think this is where, having that connection is important, communicating what you want. He was already familiar with Unity, so I didn't really have to, give that pitch. But knowing, like what to ask for is important, and knowing and letting him know where it's going to go. So that's the story. And this is his team. This is David's team, because we said, you know what, we want to do a photo to promote what you've done in social media. And he says, well, I don't run this company by myself, so I want my team to be in it. I said, absolutely. Of course, they were just next door. So they all came over and they took this group photo. So that's the story behind David Beaver. So thank you, David. He's covering all our scholarships. And of course, we're kind of winding down now, getting toward the end. And this is a no-brainer. What do you do after you fundraise? This is important, very, very important, because the person that you need to contact may or may not give the next year, right? And so I have received these thank you notes from time to time, because in the past we have sponsored youth. And in fact, we do give scholarships away. And I have an announcement here that I'm going to make, but thank you notes are always super important. And I know it means taking the time to actually, and a handwritten one is even better. I know when I get a handwritten note, it just like blows me away, because I'm thinking, well, they could have just sent me a text, or they could have just emailed me. But a written thank you note goes a long, long way. And I've gotten this from time to time from Native youth who have gone through the different programs to say, I just want to thank you and Unity for all that you do for Native youth. So a thank you note will go a long way. Okay. Okay, so what we covered today, going back to how I started as a young person raising money. Why fundraise? Why is it important to, share that story? And how will you share that story? How to fundraise? What is your plan? Having a plan, right? And developing a budget. And you saw how much it cost when I put that budget together to send 10 people to the National Unity Conference. And then finally, what to do after you fundraise. So we've covered some very basic things, but some very important topics. And again, like I said, there's no big secret to raising a lot of money. It's how you ask, right? And some of you have been doing this. When you even have a fry bread sale, you're asking people to buy your Indian taco or your fry bread, right? You're asking people to do something. So your messaging is very important. Some of you have gotten very good at that. But again, for me, one of the keys to successful fundraising is the direct ask. And so that's my challenge to you in the next couple of weeks. If you could come up, and I'm just going to do 4 because that's what I did with my youth council. If you could identify at least 4 individuals who can give $500 at the very minimum, $500. It could be the same people that I mentioned, right? The tribal lobbyist or the tribal attorney or the sheriff or the county supervisor, maybe it's a business owner like David Beaver, just coming up with the 4 names. For many of them, they may have never heard of Unity. So you're going to have to explain what Unity is and why you're fundraising, right? That elevator pitch, having that ready to go. We have provided templates for fundraising letters in the past, and I'm happy to do that. I think you can find some templates online as well. But if you would like to, for us to send you a sample, please email us, and I'm going to share my email. I didn't. Greg, can you put that in the chat? It's mk.titla@unityinc.org. So I'm happy to share a template with you, and I am happy to even share a sample budget with you, so that if you want, you could send that along with your letter. It's at least going to help, give you some guidance. But mk.titla@unityinc.org. So please contact me, and I'll be happy to share that template with you. I've even done this exercise with my staff, where we role played. And I role played, and this is going to be important too as you move forward, to role play with somebody that and just practice. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna keep moving. Like I said, we're at the, oh, wait, what's this picture doing in here? Oh, hey, that's Devin Booker. Go Suns. Got in there by mistake, I think. Just kidding. All right, so now we're down to the questions. So it looks like we have 30 people. Greg, you're gonna have to help me with this, but I think we can get a list of those that have joined, right? That signed up, that registered, right? They had to register.
Yes.
Okay, they had to register to be a part of this. Okay, so after I answer questions, I have a special announcement to make. So any questions? This is your time. And I think some people maybe got the time wrong because we're all of a sudden we're getting people joining. But again, this will be on our YouTube channel. So if you're just coming in on the tail end and you want to learn more and find out what we discussed, my goal was try to get this all done within 1 hour. And I think we were able to do that. So we covered a lot of things. A lot of it was just common sense. I think if anything, my goal today was to challenge you to do direct asks. And think of those four people that you can ask for $500 or more, and for maybe the youth to think of a list of 10 to ask them for $25 to help cover your meals. So those are just some quick tips. Of course, for the larger asks, you are going to want to do your due diligence there by creating a list of who you can ask for $1,000 or more. It could be a local business. There are, gaming tribes who do give. There are companies, large companies in different parts of the country who can give. So put your thinking caps on. And if you need a template, a letter template, we're willing to share that along with the budget. So any questions? Anything yet, Greg?
No, but we do have one from Kari. Her question there is, what do you do if you feel discouraged when asking for donations?
That's a good question. And Kari, I have been there. It was really disappointing at the very beginning when I took over as executive director for Unity. We just moved here to Arizona, and it was really tough getting Arizona foundations, corporations, and such to give to Unity because we moved. Remember, and some of you may not know this, but originally Unity's headquarters was in Oklahoma. So we moved from Oklahoma to Arizona. We had to establish ourselves here. So we got a lot of no's, even from tribal groups. And, I hate to say that, but what I believe happened is that because we were so new to Arizona, I think they wanted us to make sure that we've established ourselves and make sure that there's some history here. Well, now fast forward 10 years, we've been here, and we are having a lot of corporations and some foundations that are looking very seriously at Unity. So going back to your question, I was receiving a lot of rejections early, but I did not let that discourage me. Because why? Because I believe in what I'm doing so much that I'm not a quitter. I don't give up. And so I would just say, you go on to the next, right? Not to take anything personally, because some people genuinely might not be able to give, or maybe it just takes a second effort. I've gone back to the same donors who at the beginning said no, but now they're giving. So I'm very happy about that. And again, I think, they needed to know that we've established ourselves. And I know that's different. You're raising money for a nonprofit versus an individual. But I think that going back to the same person to say, here's what I've learned, or what will it take? I get that a lot from political candidates. What will it take for you to give me $5 today? And they're getting really, really creative. Political candidates, man, they're bold. And they don't stop bothering you. So if they don't find your phone number, they have your email, and they keep asking, right? Because they have goals to meet. They all have quarterly goals they have to meet. So I would just say, move on to the next. You may have to come back to that person later, but move on to the next. And keep building your list. Keep building your list of potential donors. I sometimes get requests from individual youth, not to go to Unity, but they're entering a pageant, or they're doing something else. And so they ask me if I would donate. And so I really take a close look at how they're asking, and why. And a lot of times I'll give. I know there's lots of online platforms now, like GoFundMe. And I think, we need to take advantage of those platforms. It is one of the ways to raise money. But again, you have to have a good story. You have to really convince people. I've seen people who have had great success with that. And I've seen people who have not had very much success with that. So there's some really good tips online. And, for me, again, it's just the direct asks seem to be the best. We don't do well with online, to be honest, but, that's just our experience. So any other questions?
Mary Kim, Shane said that he has an idea about fundraising.
Okay.
There's any tribes, nations that want to do like a raffle culture exchange, so that on the coastal tribes, we could weave cedar hats. And if like a plains tribe does ribbon shirts, we could raffle them off between reservations for funding. Good idea.
Yeah, yeah. I see a lot of raffles online, and it's like you buy a spot or something. And I think that one of the things I've seen is that you can't spell raffle outright because it's like a solicitation, I guess. So I seen like waffles. They changed the R to W, or they put the R in quotation marks. So they get creative, right? They get around it. But I've seen a lot of ribbon skirts raffled. I've seen a lot of crafts, arts and crafts raffled off. So raffles are a good way. I think you just need to, be sure to have an audience and figure out, who might be interested in your raffle. Any other questions?
Kari says she loves the idea, trading our different cultural arts with different nations.
Very good. I'm definitely interested in that. So I'm always, looking at how creative people can be. And I've seen a lot of silent auctions and live auctions, and a lot of the, native arts and crafts are definitely very popular. So I've even seen these online. So yeah, so good suggestions. Any other questions? Okay, so we're at the very end, but before we sign off, I do want to make an announcement. And for your participation, we do want to, share the wealth, so to speak. So we here at Unity, we get it. We know that you're trying really hard. We know that you really want to go to Unity. We know that sometimes it may be challenging, and so we recognize that. So I'm going to announce that Unity is going to do a raffle. Yay! And the raffle is going to be for, and this is going to, I think, I guess we'll have to see what each one would prefer, because I know some have already paid their registration fees. But so we're going to raffle off 3 conference registrations, and we're going to raffle off 2 cash prizes. So 5 items altogether. And we really do want to see you come to Unity. So if you've registered for this webinar, you are in the raffle. And the cash prizes, I'm just gonna throw out a number. How about this could be, this could be half of a airfare or even cover a lot of meals. So I'm going to say 2 cash prizes for $250. So I hope that that sounds good. Again, I just want to, make sure that you feel that we are trying to be supportive and that we know where you're coming from. So Greg, if you can just remind me tomorrow, we'll go ahead and look through the list of names, put them on a spinning wheel or something. I don't know, maybe we can do something creative. Greg and I are like the least tech savvy of people in the here at the Unity office. There are, of course, a lot of younger people here that know their technology, and none of them were available today. So Greg and I were kind of doing this together. So thank you, Greg, for hanging with me and helping me out today. So we will do that raffle tomorrow. Thank you all for joining us. Again, if you would like a sample letter and budget that we could send you and you could use for yourself to fundraise, we're happy to do that. I did give my email out earlier. And Greg, did you put that in the chat?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, good. So those of you that maybe didn't get it, Greg put his there too. So you could also email him just in case. And I'm seeing these comments now. Yay. Yeah. So, okay. Well, thank you guys. And if you have another fundraising idea, please feel free to share that with us. And, if you weren't able to put it in the chat, but you were really successful with it, please email it to us. I think maybe in our frequently asked questions page, Greg, we could maybe list some fundraising ideas because a lot of people will be checking that. So yes, so please share away. Anything else? I think we're there, right? We went a little bit over, but we started kind of late too. So again, was wanting to just do this in 1 hour. If you're just joining us here at the end, go to the YouTube page tomorrow. We're going to post this, and so you can learn about fundraising, direct ask. That was my key. So anything you want to add, Greg?
No, I just want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. We do definitely look forward to seeing you and your youth in Washington, D.C. It's going to be a epic event for our young people. So our
Yes.
numbers are increasing as we
Oh,
so please, if you haven't made reservations in your hotel, please do so because it's filling up fast. So again, thank you again.
yes, thank you. Oh, real quick, just some updates about the conference. We have more than 1,300 registered, so that's really good for May. We are expecting 2,500. Our hotels, thank you for mentioning that, Greg, are more than 80% full. So the rooms are going quick. So if you haven't made a registered or booked your rooms, I would say look into that right away. And as far as guest speakers, we did announce last week that we are inviting collaborators from the NDN Girls Book Club. And so they have a Facebook page, look them up. They're amazing. They're promoting, reading, of course, and they're giving away books all over the country. And they're all Native youth. So it's a book club, that was set up by Native young ladies. And it's really for anybody. It's whether you're male or female, it's for anybody. And so I hope that that sounds intriguing. We also have Norma Flying Horse coming back. She is a fashion designer and she won a Grammy this year. So she's going to be doing the fashion show. There's going to be a model call. And she's also going to be one of our keynoters at the conference. We're working on some others, and I don't want to give anything away, but of course, we're going to be in Washington, D.C., and we are asking different, representatives, members of Congress and cabinet members and such. So we are working on a very meaningful and impactful agenda. It's going to be wonderful, and we're teaming up with some organizations there in Washington that know Washington. So be prepared. Coming up, we're going to have I should have put a slide up, but on May 31st, we're going to have a Know Before You Go. And this is where you're going to learn some, tips in advance just to navigate through Washington, D.C. So any other announcements, Greg? We have some town halls coming up.
Yes, town halls coming up. Again, what's going to be also happening at the national conference is that we'll be honoring our new Earth ambassadors that were just selected on Earth Day last month. So we're really excited about this new cohort that are going to be joining the Unity family. But no, Mary Kim?
It's a great group. So you can learn more about them on our website. Go to unityinc.org for all information regarding the conference or other activities that we do. So thank you guys. Have a great evening and raise that money.
Thank
We
you.
want to hear from you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.